Good morning, February 6, 2023, part 2 AM ride into work. So to recap what happened in the last episode, I started driving, I talked about plumbing and weight, I got a coffee and nearly died. There was a pick-em-up truck, veered into my lane, nearly took me out. Guy was going pretty fast, and last second he cut back into his side of the road. So some excitement in the first one, and a lot of commentary talking about pipes and things like that. I got nothing for this episode. I'm just kind of sitting here going through the motions because we're doing an experiment to find out why I'm getting sick in the car on the way to and from work. My wife suspects it's the videoing. I suspect it was my jacket. So we're going to find out. I don't know if we're going to find out. Like, I'm either going to get sick or I'm not. I mean, we can eliminate the jacket, but yeah, if I don't get sick, if I do get sick, that eliminates the jacket. If I don't get sick, not exactly sure if it's the jacket or not. Actually, I'm not sure either way. I keep thinking of the word yawn, which is usually the first symptom. Once I start yawning, everything else just kind of avalanches. Like, I can still swallow. Those are the things. Like, I have trouble swallowing. I get nausea, a bit of a stomach ache, a little bit of vertigo. Then the cold sweats hit. But it usually starts with yawning, and it's a good sign that I'm not yawning yet, even though I'm thinking about yawning and I'm saying the word yawning, because that's although I don't know if I do sympathetic yawns because I'm a sociopath, so I might not, that might not trigger it. Really funny is I've probably got anybody who's listening to this actually yawning at this point because I keep saying it, putting the thought in your mind. So I've had the Dunkin' Midnight 2 days last week. Did it 2 days in a row. I think it was Thursday and Friday. Thursday, I kind of trash talked it, as you do with anything different, you know. It's like, oh, they're doing it wrong. It's made out of paint. I didn't say any of that. But the second day, people at work trash talked it instead. So there's this one woman who has been trying it lately, and she said, and this is purely anecdotal. She said she believes that they don't feel like making a whole pot. So what they'll do sometimes, instead of making the midnight, they'll make a regular pot of coffee, and then when they pour your cup, they'll throw a turbo shot of espresso in there and call it Midnight Black. I have no idea what the difference is. They described it like, I forget. Hints of cocoa, blah blah blah. I don't know if any of that's true. I don't know what they do. I did zero research on this. I'm assuming there's a flavorant thrown on the beans or in the coffee. Maybe it is a different kind of bean. Maybe they roast it a different way. I really should look it up before I go on any further about it. But anyway, it grew on me rather quickly. I think I completely changed my mind about it. At first I didn't like it, but now I'm giving it a day 3 and see what I think. And maybe tomorrow I'll go back to the regular blend just to see if there is a noticeable difference. Me and my wife are quickly becoming coffee snobs. It's an absolute horrible thing. We have some coffee at home we refuse to use. We're actually using Huck's because we've got this coffee. We don't want to be wasteful. but I think I'm going to have to. We've made multiple pots with this coffee, and it's one of those Christmas blends, and it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. Neither one of us can stand it. We drink our coffee black. I did mention that, and like maybe I'll mention it again. Maybe we just suffer through and just like throw some cream or something in there. See what it does. My wife didn't always drink her coffee black. I still don't. I still don't remember when I started drinking coffee. I don't know. Does anyone know when they start drinking coffee? Like, when is that a thing? When do you get your first cup of coffee? Is it at home? Is it at a restaurant? Like, do you go to a restaurant and everybody else orders coffee so you don't want to feel left out? I have no idea. I don't remember when I had my first cup of coffee. It's like kind of a weird glitch in the Matrix thing. It's just at one point in your life you drink coffee. I guess I drank coffee like anyone else would, cream and sugar, blah, blah, blah. There's two reasons I think that I started drinking coffee black. I don't know what they are. No. So the first reason is when I used to visit my aunt and uncle up the mountains, they drank their coffee black. In fact, I don't believe they had sugar in their house, which is weird. How can you not have sugar? Well, no sugar to speak of. So they drank their coffee black, so I drank the coffee black, and I warm up to things pretty quickly, so I got used to black coffee there. But another thing that was going on, not at the same time, but similar timeline, is I had taken in a stray, and he lived with us for a couple of years, and I say a stray, just a flatmate, and he lived with us for a couple of years, and he was a heavy coffee drinker, and he used a lot of sugar in his coffee. And I'm not being comical, and there's no hyperbole here. I mean, his cups, when I used to do the dishes, there would be a puck of sugar, a congealed sugar puck, like just a crystalline puck at the bottom of his cup that had to be at least 1/4 of an inch thick. So he had gone well beyond the point of saturation, to the point where he was just literally wasting sugar. So at one point I stopped buying sugar because we were going through it so quickly. He actually made the comment at one point, which I thought was funny. This is one of the brief periods when he had a job. He made a comment that it's so much cheaper to make coffee at home than to buy it on the road. And he said that in front of me and my wife, and me and my wife just looked at him, because he was not, at this point he wasn't paying rent, and he definitely wasn't paying for any of the coffee supplies, and he just didn't think through what he was about to say. It's one of those comical situations where we had decided that it was time to part ways. He hadn't paid rent in a really long time, and we were going to ask him to leave. And literally, like, I don't know if he sensed it, if he had like some kind of bizarre doggy sense, but he came home that day we were going to ask him to leave, and told us this long sob story. He just lost his job, and again, me and my wife just looked at each other. It's like, son of a diddly. And we didn't kick him to the curb then. It was later that day. No, it was later. So the point is, my wife didn't always drink her coffee black. She started drinking her coffee black after I started drinking, after being exposed to me. She picked up a lot of my habits, idiosyncrasies, things like that. So she was never a red wine drinker. I got her into drinking red wine. She was not a Scotch drinker. I got her into drinking Scotch. Lots of things. I infect people. am serious though. I think I asked this, I know I asked this in a previous video, and it didn't get any comments because my viewership is, I've got 2 subscribers. I think I have 1 viewer. The coffee thing, I am curious as to, like, either way, like, let me know when you first start drinking coffee, or let me know if you're in the same boat as me, as you literally cannot remember when you started drinking coffee. So far, I mean, other than the Monday morning blues, there's nothing out of the ordinary. We're only maybe halfway through the trip. And then we've got the ride home, but it's looking like it may have been that jacket. So I learned a new function. This is going to be an Excel thing. I learned a new function in Excel yesterday. I had to, like, I knew there was a way to do it. I didn't know what it was. Geez, I'm teasing you, and I'm not going to remember what the function is. If sum if s. So it's sum. It's not sum if. It's sum if s. And it's so you sum if, and then you highlight the fields, and then you highlight the values. Look it up, but it's sum if equals sum if s bracket the values field, comma, the criteria field, comma, the criteria. So if you want to use it for a date, like let's say you've got a bunch of values in a column and you've got a bunch of dates in the next column. So the next column you want to go like an accumulated tally. So but by dates, like the way I used it, I set up an index. So there was it's like the first of the month. Like if you're back to rent again, related to someone completely different, you can use the sum if s statement to tabulate, meaning that like you write, like let's say their rent is due the 5th of the month. So like, you know, and let's say you have a field over here, you can make it. You can make it if you try. Anyway, just like let's assume you've got the dates going down there, like 1/5/2023, 2/5/2023. Let's say the rent is due before the 6th or whatever. So in the last field, you can go down, and you can also have a column with their payments, which is going to be the value field, next to the date, which is the month. Like, and you can have the payments that they make, and these payments can be like wild. It doesn't matter when they are. You could have 3 in a month. You could like 2/1/23, $500, 2/17/23, $350, 2/30/23, $500, 3/1/23, $150. So those are the dates and the payments. You're expecting X amount every month. So by using the sum if s next to the first of every month, you can tabulate how behind, no one ever gets ahead really, but you can tally how far behind they are at that point of the month. So it would be equal sum if s. You highlight the values next to the payments, and then you highlight the date that it's the dates that the payments were made, and then on the dates over here next to the date where it's due, you put that in there, and you use the amounts they paid and the dates that they were paid as the criteria, and you sum if less than that particular date. When you're using a variable, meaning that you're pointing to a column, you're not writing a specific date, the formula is slightly different. It's sum if s equals values, comma, criteria, comma, it's always in quotes, so it starts quotes, less than, quotes, and the next operand will be the date. So if you've got a column of dates, you're just pointing back to that. So if the first date's in column T, you would just say and T2, end bracket. Or if it's just a date, you would just write out the date, quote, less than this date, quote, end bracket. And anyway, that gives you a running tally of how much they've paid by a specific date. So you can look all the way down to May and see, okay, they've made a ton of payments. You just want to see what they've paid up to that point in time. And you can, whatever is due by that point, you can subtract that, do an index, multiply it by that index, meaning the first month it's the rent times 1, the second month then the rent times 2. So instead of just seeing what they've paid, you can actually see if they're, how far behind they may be in their rent and whether or not like a late payment is required or something like that. So anyway, it's called SumIfS, and it's really handy. I know explaining it without like showing it to you, like when you go to look it up, you'll see the equation, you'll be like, oh, that's what he meant. Doing pretty well here. I can't, if it's the jacket, I can't even wrap my head around what it might be. Is it a chemical? Is it radiation? I mean, I have been complaining about a weird rash on my elbow pits. Is this safe to drink yet? Do you? It's a shame. This gas station that we're driving by now, it used to used to say a bunch of stuff that they had. I've said this before, but I don't say it enough. And they listed a bunch of things, and it was funny the order, because like the last couple of things were lottery, hot dogs, and I always thought it was funny. Me and my wife giggle about that all the time. It's like, gas station hot dog. Yeah, it is a lottery hot dog. A little stuffed up this morning. A little residue from yesterday's illness, but it doesn't smell the same. I don't know how part 2 is going to even come close to comparing to part 1. I nearly died in part 1. This is just boring. It doesn't smell great. It tastes okay. Besides insulating the wall, I also discovered that I've got a couple of below grade windows in the party room, all along that wall actually. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 subterranean window wells on the front side of the house, and then one on the back side of the house. Front and back are arbitrary terms, but where the front door is the front. So yeah, the street facing side of the house, there's 4 window wells, 2 in the party room, 1 in the office, 1 in the basement, and then there's a second one in the basement on the opposite side of the house. So while I was in the party room, while I was doing the insulation, as I moved my head slightly, like there's a soil pipe that is now exposed. It's a long story. I told part of it, but there's like this just horrific story about a really, really bad plumber who destroyed our lawn, destroyed our driveway, and never solved our problem. And at the end, when the sewage was still backing up into our house, he told us to call a plumber. crazy story. Anyway, so as I'm putting the foam up, there's a board here because the soil pipe used to be boxed out, but I've been remodeling, so it's not anymore. And I noticed as I was going like this that the window does not fully fill the space. There's actually a gap. You can see outside on either side of the window. I mean, it's a thin gap, but it's there. It's significant, and I could actually feel a breeze coming through. Once I noticed it, like I didn't notice the breeze before. Like, you just attribute it to something else. You just, like, there's a cold. They're gray blocks. Foundations of houses are made out of them. Ash rock, not cobblestone. Not the bricks. They're they're gray. They got the 2 holes in them. They're kind of like big ass Legos. Cinder block. The hell did I just call them? Anyway, cinder blocks. So, like, whenever I felt that cold, I just attributed it to the fact that the cold cinder block, there's probably just this convection of, like, cold air falling down. Like I said, I make these assumptions in life, and I am invariably wrong. Like, I do all this good science. I think things out really well, and it turns out I'm just an idiot. But no, it's not convection currents in cold wall. There's, like, actually a hole leading to the outside. So I ended up caulking that. Either both sides of the window. I only did the one. I have to assume it's the same with all of the others. So I will go around and take care of that. But at that moment, I happened to be there, and I happened to have a gun, which literally had probably just enough caulk to get the job done. And I did that, and there was an immediate difference in that spot. My wife says that part of that is psychosomatic, and she is absolutely right, but it did. I said it felt warmer, but what I'm probably feeling is lack of breeze, lack of cold air blowing on me. Oh, have a wonderful day.